Today, we are very honored to have invited the Venerable Master. Khenpo Sodargye is versed in Tibetan and Chinese Buddhism. Let us welcome Khenpo's arrival with warm applause. Before tonight's lecture begins, invite Lei Rupeng, Philosophy Deadhead, to give an address for tonight's precious lecture. Please welcome.
We are honored to have invited the Lalonga Buddhist Academy, Buddhist Khenpo Sodargye, to our department. He will be giving us a very profound and wonderful lecture on Buddhism. I think the large number of students attending this lecture today is a testament to everyone's enthusiasm for Buddhism and admiration for Khenpo Sodargye. So I won't say any more and won't take up any more of your time. Let us now listen in person to our Master's truly wonderful lecture together and experience the wisdom of the Master. All right, everyone, let's give a warm welcome.
Good evening, respected teachers and dear students. I'm truly very happy to be here at Huazhong University of Science and Technology today to have this exchange with all the teachers and students. Of course, what I have to say is neither very profound nor particularly brilliant, to be honest. I simply enjoy discussing and learning together with each and every one of you. This can also be considered as us seeking truth together. Today I was thinking that many of us here present are very young. You all have a true enthusiasm for knowledge and a strong desire for truth. Of course, I think in this world, each of us has our own beautiful ideals. After all, our own truly unique, far-reaching vision. But in this world that we live in, which according to Buddhist teachings is referred to as the Saha world, in the Saha world, we also encounter all kinds of disasters and suffering on a daily basis. Today, let's take a look together. Now, what kind of truth should people seek while living in this world? Through which philosophical approach or school of thought can this kind of fundamental truth be discovered and unearthed? I believe that many teachers and students are willing to pursue such a goal. During this process, I often think that indeed, in today's society, especially for young people, there is a need for education of Buddhist teachings and the awakening of the mind. Otherwise, when facing life and work, the pressure is intense. If you truly understand some of the theories in Buddhism, the knowledge and wisdom that comes from Buddhism can in fact indeed be of truly great help to you. Today, I'd like to take a moment to talk with all of you about what we commonly refer to as truth, and to explain in the simplest terms possible. Let's carefully verify it from two aspects. One is, in particular, the truth of Buddhism. If everyone, or at least many people, can attain it, it will indeed truly benefit your life. And all aspects of it, I believe they are truly tremendous benefits. But after all, it is a particularly profound form of literature and a kind of knowledge. In our limited time in one class, it is absolutely very difficult to explain everything to everyone with complete clarity. But at the very least, if we can understand some of the basic principles, I think it should serve as some guidance for your future life and journey. In fact, the truth of Buddhism can also be verified from the perspective of Buddhist studies itself. It is the only truth in this world. It can also be verified from the perspective of modern science. If we are to verify it from Buddhism's own standpoint, we must also first take a particularly fair and impartial position to conduct the proof. There was once a very famous Indian scholar named Dharmakirti who said this: "I don't praise my Buddha out of attachment or desire, nor do I disparage other non-Buddhist schools, such as the Tirthikas, out of anger. I look to see which tradition truly possesses words of truth, and I regard that as my true teacher." He once said these words. Today, as we seek the truth here, it is the same for us. I myself am not attached to any particular standpoint, nor do I disparage other perspectives. When we seek or judge with impartial reasoning, you will realize that in today's society, there are also many mysterious things. These mysterious things are often explained through another kind of academic discipline. On this point, the great and renowned Indian Buddhist philosopher Acharya Aryadeva, who was a key figure in Buddhist philosophy, in his 400 verses on the middle way, there is such a sentence: "The most profound and hidden principles of Buddhism teachings should be realized in practical terms through a certain kind of realization, and by seeking methods to explore the non-conceptual emptiness. In this way, one can dispel the doubts that arise and develop genuine supreme conviction." This is extremely important. Here, the majority of us, when you are exploring truth or philosophy, like what the Buddha taught, including the existence of samsara, the law of karma and its effects, past and future lives, things eyes can't see or hands can't touch. So, are these things actually correct or not? We should study Madhyamaka Prajna, wisdom philosophy. If we study the philosophy of Prajna, we understand Prajna principles. Impossible for worldly people discern truths. Only a sage like the Buddha, who possesses incomparable wisdom, can clearly and fully reveal these important truths to us. From this, we can develop a genuine and unwavering understanding of the profound and mysterious meanings in Buddhism. So, regarding what I just said, I wonder if everyone understood. When it comes to many Buddhist teachings, some people may still have some doubts or uncertainties, and there are also, as you might expect, various different opinions. At such times, can you first try to explore Prajnaparamita, which was translated by Xuanzang? In the Chinese Tripitaka, there are so many of them. Is it possible for us here to do some research and investigation to learn from the Prajna emptiness principle? When you study teachings, you will realize that 2,500 years ago, humanity had profound wisdom. Indeed, I think that many of us who are present here today are also actively engaged in a range of research activities and scholarly pursuits. I often think about this myself. According to the widely recognized and commonly accepted calendar, it has been approximately 55 years in total since the Buddha's time. In fact, back then, philosophical thought had not yet fully matured. Whether it was Western philosophers like Plato or Socrates or Aristotle and others, their philosophical ideas emerged around 400 BCE. At that time, Western philosophy had not yet truly entered the world in any meaningful sense. Not yet at all. But when it comes to Eastern philosophy, in the Buddha's time, more than 2,500 years ago, such descriptions were given for today about psychology and cosmology, including medicine, knowledge across all disciplines, all explored so clearly. I think that many wise and thoughtful people simply can't help but marvel at this extraordinary thing, and they often find it to be truly rare and remarkable. Nowadays, some intellectuals in China think of Buddhism as a kind of department store. They regard Taoism as resembling a medicine shop, and Confucianism is seen as being like a grocery store. This is how they view it. Because if you fall ill, you can find what you need in Taoism, and when you need food, you simply turn to Confucianism. But any kind of knowledge can indeed be found in Buddhism on the department store. In fact, whether it's food or medicine, all of it should be included. Why is that? Because Buddhism truly does encompass all-encompassing knowledge. There really shouldn't be anything missing. This isn't just Buddhists boasting or talking ourselves up in any sense or form. I can also say something symbolically in a moment. Western thinkers or our current scientists, they acknowledge and have provided evidence for, at this point, what should we ourselves actually do? For many of you here, I think life truly is very short. In this brief life, what kind of philosophy should we seek? This is something everyone should consider. Most of the teachers and students present here are studying philosophy, but when it comes to philosophical questions, we really need to think them through in detail. When reflecting, never think. I am a university student majoring in philosophy, so I know everything there is to know. Never have such arrogance. If you become arrogant, allowing this kind of mindset to take hold, it will inevitably cloud your wisdom. We should continue to seek the truth with an impartial attitude. If we keep exploring the truth itself is never afraid of being examined by us. Galileo also once said, "What is the power of truth?" Exactly. The more you attack it, the more it reveals its authenticity, substance, and it can in fact be demonstrated. This is what truth really is. So our master Shakyamuni Buddha once said in the sutras, no matter whether you are a monastic or a layperson, do not think that because I am your Buddha, you should accept my teachings out of reverence. Don't accept blindly. Use your judgment. Just like refining gold, refining it 16 times over. Only after careful and detailed observation can I accept it. If it is reasonable, then you can simply accept it. If it is not reasonable, you can abandon it. Buddhism's attitude toward truth is very clear. So whether it's the Madhyamaka view of emptiness or issues like karma and cause and effect and many other questions, they should all be able to withstand the thorough and careful scrutiny of wisdom and the test of logic. At this point, many of us might think, if it really can withstand logical scrutiny, after careful consideration, that's a good thing, but it doesn't have much to do with my life. Many students and wise people, including some who seek truth, are especially concerned about their own lives. I've been to some schools, and many teachers at those schools don't want to hear about deeper aspects of Buddhism, nor do they want to hear about certain scientific knowledge. They're only particularly interested in hearing about their own work, including relationships, various aspects of their personal lives, and some immediate problems that they need to solve or address. Many people who are especially busy are often like this as well. This is what they would like to seek. But in reality, if we genuinely and sincerely have a truly correct and accurate understanding, then your work, your life, your survival can gradually be resolved with ease. If our first focus, our initial direction is set on money, maybe even on status, then the real me has indeed already been lost. I often go to cities. Sometimes I feel a kind of shock at what I see. When I witness social phenomena, it naturally brings about a sense of grief, or you could say a feeling of sorrow. Why is that? Many people only care about their own immediate, very simple lives and don't think at all about the environment in which we and our lives exist. They don't consider the society around them, nor do they think about what we will become in the future. Every day is constantly busy, putting much effort into daily tasks, all just for the sake of immediate survival, for food, or for the few short decades of life. With all this busyness, where can the so-called true self actually be found? There's a rather old story from Han China. I'm not sure if any of you have perhaps heard it. In ancient times, there was a monk who had left home and broken the law. Later, the local government sent what we would now call police officers, back then they were called constables, to carefully escort this important person to the capital city. Then transportation wasn't convenient today. The authorities gave specific instructions for the escort during the transfer. There were 4 requirements. First, the monk must not be forgotten. Second, the bundle of their belongings can't be forgotten. Third, you must not be forgotten. And there was an official document. None of these 4 things could be forgotten. If even one was forgotten, there would be punishment. Because the journey was long, every morning along the way, he would start by checking, am I here? Is the monk here? Is the bundle and official document here? He would always check everything before continuing on the road. They traveled for many days like this. Later, without realizing it, during their time together, because that leader also felt a bit lonely and tired, he would sometimes chat with the monk along the way. And so it went on like this. Finally, one day, amidst wind and rain, hungry, cold, and exhaustion, at that moment, the monk said to him, I'm tired, and so are you. For a long time, you've been following me and haven't had any decent meat to eat. Do you want me to buy some meat and wine for you? Then you can relax a bit. That person, perhaps already showing some signs of corruption, agreed. They stayed in the rundown temple. Then the monk went to a nearby lively market to buy meat and wine. He and the leader drank wine and ate meat together. Not drank meat and ate wine. Some people often mistakenly say it that way. So that night, he enjoyed the meal with satisfaction. The meat really was delicious, and he drank more and more wine. He got drunk and was oblivious to everything. At that moment, the monk saw his chance and immediately took out the knife he had bought at the market earlier. He quickly shaved all the leader's hair off completely bald. After carefully shaving his head, he put his traditional monk's clothes on him. Monk left. When he woke up early in the next morning, the very first thing he did was start looking for those 4 things. First, he checked for the documents. They were there. Second, was the bundle still there? It was. He looked if the monk remained, but the monk was gone. So he was anxious. He reached up and touched his head. He had no hair left. So monk was here. He saw in monk's robes, the clothes were there too. He felt the monk was there. Then for the 4th thing, this person was confused. And for the 4th thing, he realized, I'm not here anymore. If I'm not here, he especially worried he was already gone. the person wearing a police uniform was no longer there. So he searched all around the ruined temple, inside and out. He kept searching, thinking he had lost himself. He believed he was already lost. That's how it was. So what does this mean? It means that when you compare Buddhism with real life today, indeed, many people nowadays simply don't even recognize themselves anymore. Why do I say this? From morning to night, every day, what are many people busy with? Some researchers spend their whole lives studying something. They study biology, this topic, that topic. Some teachers, for example, can never find the topic they're researching. In the end, the students have no choice because many teachers' research topics ultimately have to be forced out through their students' achievements. Students cannot graduate. Later on, some of them really can't handle the pressure anymore. Many schools have this situation. Actually, every day, there are also people who are like this for the sake of fame, a lifetime spent rushing about for fame. Some people fall and get back up again for love. They fall down again and get up again and keep repeating this cycle. These are things people see in this society. But in reality, what are we searching for? It's the self. But this self isn't the true self. Why is that? If it were truly yourself, when you die, emotions, reputation, wealth, all your glory and riches should go with you. You can't bring these at birth or take them at death. In the end, you have nothing. So what is it that stays connected with us forever? It is the continuation of our life, our existence. That is the truly crucial point. But many wise people nowadays, for a variety of different reasons, are completely and utterly unaware of this. Some of these reasons are also related to history. Actually, many of us nowadays, in our daily lives, what we call atheism, I don't personally reject so-called atheism either. Atheism isn't a bad thing. In fact, at the very beginning, Marx should have been born in 1818. Back in 1848, he and Engels were in Belgium actively preparing for a significant revolution of the proletariat against the main force, that is the bourgeoisie. After the revolution ultimately failed, he went to London, England, and began writing his influential work, Das Kapital. Later, after finishing more than 2 million words, his work was recognized by the Soviet Union and China. Here, most people receive an education based on atheism, which can also be said to be mainly influenced by Marxist philosophy. Many people have truly grown up this way. But as for Marx's atheism, this is how I see it. At that time, what he called atheism was actually truly not concerned with Buddhism at all, in any way, because in that era, in fact, Buddhism was not particularly flourishing or widespread in Britain. Although Marx spoke several languages and was able to understand many different kinds of script, and he browsed through many books in bookstores, including those on Christianity and other religions, what he was targeting at the time was Christianity's acknowledgement of the existence of God and the so-called God or the Lord being the creator of all things. He believed that under the influence of such an ideology, the so-called bourgeoisie would hold the dominant position. In that case, the proletariat would have no way to overthrow them at all. Therefore, he adopted this kind of atheism. But do we accept this kind of atheism? The so-called atheism and our Buddhist perspective can be consistent. There's no contradiction. Why is that? Because Buddhism simply does not acknowledge that all things are created by a God. Moreover, our teacher Shakyamuni Buddha lived more than 2,500 years ago as the prince of King Shuddhodana in India. After renouncing the world, he founded our tradition, which can also be called the school of the fourth Buddha among the 1,000 Buddhas of the Eon. This is a true historical fact. Nowadays, many of us travel to India to visit the place where Buddha taught, renunciated, and the site of his parinirvana. All of these are sacred sites in India, and they exist today. This was around the 5th and 6th centuries BCE. This is not mythology. This is real history. Such detailed historical accounts and ancient Buddhist philosophical and spiritual teachings, I think, whether in top universities or government institutions today, everyone should be worthy of learning. If you haven't studied them before, then perhaps many of the topics we research, if you haven't delved deeply into the subject or topic at hand, then that's another matter entirely. But if you genuinely conduct in-depth and thorough research from Buddhism, especially within the context of Eastern mysticism, you can indeed gain a great deal of valuable theory and important knowledge. And many of the discoveries made by scientists also originate from Buddhist and other related religious philosophies. So I think that many people here from a young age have been confined by certain topics or textbook concepts trapped within them, and have never really truly looked at the world to see what is truly happening. Now, in the West, there are still many scientists who, with a very impartial attitude, are conducting explorations. They will discover that in Buddhism, indeed, many important truths were uncovered very early on, including psychology. I don't know if you have read about it, the Yogacara school of Buddhism. In the Yogacara philosophy of Buddhism, there are many emotional issues that in certain cases psychology simply cannot fully address. In Buddhism, emotion are greed, anger, and ignorance, pride, jealousy, and so on. There are simply fundamental afflictions and latent afflictions. And from Virtuous Mind's view, there are also many categories, such as wisdom, compassion, faith, and so forth. Take, for example, the emotion of anger. Anger itself can be further divided into irritation, rage, hatred, and so on. Each of these different levels is carefully analyzed in great detail and thoroughly examined. Think about it. When humanity reached the 21st century, back then, before the Common Era, when the Buddha appeared in the world, if such a level of thought had already matured, many Western scientists would, in fact, consider it to be exceptionally uncommon and rare. That's why, nowadays, they reference many of the philosophies from that time to begin initially exploring psychology, physiology, and even the study of animals and plants. They also study the universe as a whole and the quantum world at the smallest scales, and knowledge from aspects. For example, to put it simply, the exploration of extremely small microscopic particles. You all know about quantum mechanics and the revolutionary and groundbreaking ideas of Newton, Einstein, and so on. In fact, if Buddhism had already explained all of this so clearly long ago, if we refuse to acknowledge it, aren't we, in the end, just denying the truth? Some people originally thought, wow, maybe this really isn't right, because so many people today don't accept it. But in fact, just because so many people don't accept it doesn't necessarily mean it isn't the truth. After all, the truth has always, in fact, been in the hands of a very small number of people. This is also true for any scientific theory in our world. In the past, there was an extraordinary wise man in Tibet named Sakya Pandita. Sakya Pandita used an analogy. He said, herders simply cannot understand the value of precious treasures. In the same way, ordinary foolish people are unable to comprehend the truths of the world. As people in this world, you shouldn't think that there are thousands of people on the street and thousands in our school. If none of them actually believe in Buddhism, and if none of them acknowledge the existence of past and future lives, if people don't acknowledge, I won't either. Actually, that's not how it is. In any country, any ethnicity throughout human history, if we look back at history, there are some religions and some truths. The political power at that time and the economic development at that time, etc. There was a very close and meaningful connection. So just because many of us don't believe, it doesn't necessarily mean something doesn't exist. Some people even insist, sometimes with great conviction, saying, well, anyway, I just really don't believe in this. Not believing becomes their most unshakable and compelling reason. But in fact, my disbelief doesn't actually prove anything at all, in any way. Some people's disbelief simply reflects their own ignorance. In reality, their disbelief truly does not harm the actual truth in any way, not at all. Some say, I don't believe in Buddhist teachings or Buddhism. They think their disbelief makes them great, extraordinary, as if they have become the standard of truth. But in fact, when we stand before the truth, if we do not believe, from a philosophical perspective, whether Western or Eastern philosophy, this is considered a manifestation of ignorance. If we really have no way to persuade them, we must go along with them. If I have a truly solid reason or some concrete, undeniable evidence, then it's acceptable for me not to believe. In fact, people today also say that believing or not believing is your own freedom. However, this thinking has damaged virtuous roots of many people. Even though it is a matter of freedom, if we ourselves, for any reason, happen to forget something that is truly important to us, isn't that a really real pity? It is indeed true that people have past and future lives. No one can ever destroy this truth. Some people might think, if past and future lives exist, why am I not even aware of it? Why can't I seem to remember? Or how is that even possible? Don't mention past and future lives. Many things from your current life, things from your childhood that you probably can't remember now. The experiences you had right after you were born, even though they happened, you can't recall them. Although things that will happen tomorrow exist, you have no way of knowing them in your mind. In fact, Plato, even back in those distant and ancient times, also quite remarkably discovered and recognized that people believe that they have past and future lives and that out-of-body experiences occur. At that time, Western philosophers had no way of understanding what exactly was going on. Later, our Eastern mysticism, that is the concept of the intermediate state, it seems that the Bardo teachings were translated into English in 1927. Then, from that time on, that what is described in the teachings of the intermediate state and what Western philosophers now talk about, studied by hypnosis. And through various psychological research methods, the results they have discovered are consistent, exactly the same. So many people are especially astonished by this. This point is indeed well known to every household in our Tibetan region. Past and future lives exist. Good deeds bring good results, evil deeds bring evil results, and people accumulate good roots and seek truth for sake of their future life. This is something that everyone considers completely natural and self-evident. It's already so common that no one thinks much of it. But in big cities, if someone actually starts genuinely believing in Buddhism, people around them immediately start paying close attention. They wonder, oh, is this person going to become a monk? Is something wrong with them? It's as if Buddhism, like some forms of Qigong, is something especially frightening. Even parents get really quite worried. If you choose to study philosophy, Buddhist courses in philosophy increase their anxiety. They worry that the teacher might lead the students into the mountains to become monks. If one is a monk, they wonder, what if everyone in the world becomes a monk? What would we do then? At university, a student asked me a question, but due to time constraints, I couldn't give a good answer. What did she say? She said, teacher, just think about it. Really think about it. If everyone became a monk like you, then who in our society would farm the land? Who would support us? She was worried about this, but it's an unnecessary concern. No need to worry. Why? Because being a monk is a noble pursuit, not saying that every monk is truly remarkable. Some people pretend or appear to be a monk to damage the reputation of Buddhism. Such cases do exist. But genuine monks hold a truly very high status in society. It's just like teachers in our society who guide and support us. Not just anyone can so easily or casually become one. It truly takes something special. For example, if we have university professors in our society, should we be genuinely concerned that everyone will eventually become a university professor? If all became professors, then there'd be no farmers, no herders, no workers. If everyone became a university professor, would that be a real concern? It's not going to happen. And it's impossible for everyone to reach that level or be qualified. It's just not possible. In the same way, whether it's about becoming a monastic or many other Buddhist principles, nowadays many people have certain doubts. All these doubts, in fact, stem from a lack of truly thorough and proper understanding of Buddhism. Some even get their information from the media or from books written by people who pretend to understand but actually don't. These sources often end up misleading others because people, especially many university students, don't know the truth. During our student years, our hearts are truly pure, just like a blank sheet of paper. Whatever a teacher draws on your heart becomes an influence for your entire life. If a good teacher paints a beautiful flower on the blank paper of your heart, then that becomes a lifelong influence for you. But if teachers aren't good, they might draw an image that's not very pleasant on your blank paper, and that may be an idol in your life. So I think a lot of people shouldn't assume that I'm a college student. If I enter society, nothing really matters to me anymore. At all, everything granted, and that I can handle anything that comes my way. Actually, that's not the case. When we face society and step into the real world, we must always have a genuine attitude of seeking the truth at all times. If we lose that attitude, our hearts will develop wrong knowledge, wrong views, and misunderstandings. If that happens, I honestly believe that your life in the future, well, it probably won't be very happy or fulfilling. There are a lot of things in society, especially for some students in particular, who have indeed been under pressure since childhood. And then, when you finally get to university, your stress and pain, in fact, become even more obvious. Not long ago, I met someone who used to study at a university in Wuhan. Now, he's already been working in society for 6 or 7 years. When he returned to Wuhan later, he felt that the life he had as a student was so bright and so happy. He was very envious about that. But many of the students in our universities, they think, oh, when can I finally leave this campus and be free from my teachers? When can I finally break free from these constraints? I'll be able to do my own things on my own and work independently and freely in society. They imagine how wonderful that would be, but it's not like that. Right now, you are actually at the happiest, most joyful, most carefree, and most fulfilling time of your life. Once you step into society, behind the scenes of society, there are many dark, mysterious, and shadowy aspects you haven't even imagined. When you discover them, you'll realize you never expected it at all. Wow, I never knew there were so many bad people in this society. On the surface, these people all seem cheerful and perfectly content. But how can society be so incredibly ugly? At that point, you might start to mentally prepare yourself, perhaps for what is to come. As I just mentioned, there are many dark corners in our society. At that time, if you don't have some kind of faith, or if you're not quite fully mentally prepared, and you rely entirely on material things or some external force to support you, honestly, I think it will be quite difficult. So now, as everyone is aware, at this point in time, in this modern society, even during the university years, the suicide rate is noticeably and steadily rising day by day. And now, these days, it's not just universities, including in middle and elementary schools, it's spreading. This phenomenon is becoming more and more serious, increasingly so, in fact. What's the reason for this? Sometimes, many of us are at times under too much pressure. When you're a university student or when you're looking for a job, If the pressure is so great that at times it's really truly difficult for you to bear, then once you enter society, you'll have to take on responsibilities for society, family, work, and so on. When you shoulder many responsibilities, there really are, in fact, significant and potentially serious risks and great difficulty. So at that time, I often think if we truly, genuinely, and deeply understand that people indeed have both past and future lives, and that the cycle of rebirth is inherently painful, with suffering making up the majority of life, this kind of suffering can be alleviated through the methods taught by the Buddha. In that case, you will be truly happy. If you encounter some setbacks in your life, you'll understand, oh, maybe, just maybe, this is the result of negative karma I created in a past life. So no matter how hard I try in this life, I'm afraid it may be impossible to make up for it or to fulfill my wishes. This is something that, in fact, many people who truly and wholeheartedly believe in Buddhism today are actually able to accomplish. This is not just empty praise or flattery that I'm giving today, it's truly heartfelt. You should truly, genuinely immerse yourself or carefully study this field, and indeed you will experience it in your own body and mind. It relieves our suffering. So the Buddha told us that indeed most of the world is suffering, but this suffering can be alleviated through a skillful method. After it is alleviated, you will be happy. In the Buddhist scriptures, this is called the truth of suffering. The cycle of rebirth in the three realms is like a house on fire. Most things in our world are truly suffering. This might be something you haven't really noticed before. But now you can try to count from morning till night how many times in a day are you truly happy and how many times do you experience suffering. Or over your whole life, some people might think maybe those who are wealthy or have money are very happy, but that's not necessarily the case. If there is no realization, Elizabeth once said, in her own words, as well, I am fortunate enough to possess beauty, wealth, and status. I have everything, but I am not happy. Why am I not happy? Because my heart lacks fulfillment, no sense in heart. The true principle that good deeds are rewarded and evil deeds are punished. In our world, there is so much suffering, which many may not realize, but once you actually enter into life, perhaps, for example, as a teacher or in the competition among colleagues, then there is the suffering that occurs within the family as well, including the pain of being stuck in traffic when you go out, and when you come back, the exhaustion of body and mind. Your mood is bad, your health is poor. One moment you find this unpleasant, and sometimes, for no reason at all kinds of worries arise in your heart. I often find myself thinking this way indeed, especially after I started studying Buddhism. The incredible help it has given me truly and significantly surpasses all the money and so on. Honestly, why is that? If I hadn't really studied Buddhism, perhaps in my life, whether monastic or lay, we all have an ordinary mindset, so there would definitely be a great deal of suffering. After I studied Buddhism, for the most part, I can use the Buddha's teachings to train and adjust myself. Finally, body and mind return balanced. Some issues, although they don't show immediate results right away, can sometimes take a while. I still truly understand where they really come from, and I know that it's not so simple. The reason is that I can trace many of the roots of causes and conditions back to my past lives. Otherwise, if I had some conflict with someone, for example, I might really be unable to let go and could likely end up killing them or hating them for life. But if I truly understand the many causes and conditions from past and future lives, I will definitely know some things. So the root of our suffering is karma and afflictions. This is so extremely important. If we don't know the root of suffering is karma and afflictions, then everything is always just temporary, just within this lifetime. Nowadays, many people are extremely extreme. When something goes wrong, they want to solve it immediately. If you don't resolve it, you start to try to solve the problem by using very radical, extreme, or unconventional means. If you really can't solve the problem, no matter what you try, the only thing left is to throw away your own life, this is really just not worth it at all. It's honestly a very foolish act. But in many of our school textbooks, for example, there is indeed a serious lack of education in this particular aspect of being a person truly. Since we were young, we've always been in front of teachers, learning countless lessons and attending countless classes. But when we encounter suffering in the future, how should we face it? How should we act? How can we show filial piety to parents and so on? How much of this particular kind of knowledge has actually been instilled in us? Of course, we can't really blame the teachers themselves, are also somewhat forced by circumstance. This is what we Buddhists call a kind of collective karma shared by all sentient beings. But indeed, in reality, in today's modern society, all kinds of problems exist, and they are increasing day by day. So many knowledgeable people mainly have long since recognized and have ultimately had to honestly and reluctantly admit this undeniable reality. Now, society is in a state of being critically ill beyond remedy. We still have to try various ways to treat it, but when it comes to treatment, we really need to consider all options, whether it's our education system or the overall general transformation of people's minds. It's really not easy at all. So if we don't have a certain kind of true courage in our hearts, deep down inside, and by courage, I don't mean you have to go out there and physically fight someone with your fists like Shaolin Kung Fu or Tai Chi. It's really not like that. I can't fight at all. I just make the gestures. That's not the courage I mean. The courage I'm referring to is when we truly and fully understand in our hearts a true warrior of wisdom who understands all causes and effects. Without this, our ability to face and deal with the many challenges and uncertainties of life in this world is in fact extremely fragile and easily shaken. Then, when we enter society, don't some people say this? Nowadays, many companies, organizations and departments in society currently need people. They are quite short-staffed. In our world, many people can't find jobs or careers. There are especially many of them. I've seen some recent reports about college students who now need employment. After seeing them, I was really shocked. Wow, so many people are looking for jobs. But the two sides just can't seem to connect. Why is that? Because these departments and organizations need talented people, people who are truly capable and hands-on. It's not just about having a diploma. It's not just about someone who simply appears to be good at talking. It doesn't work. To truly get things done, a person needs to be kind and honest. The ancients valued integrity and courtesy, but nowadays many people lack these qualities. So the types of people they need are often nowhere to be found, even among many intellectuals. And as intellectuals, we tend to set our goals quite far ahead. You could even say our standards are pretty high. We think in the future I should buy a car, buy a house, buy this and that in society. With that mindset, I must make at least a certain amount of money every month in order to find a job. We're dissatisfied with this and that. So our greed and desire become extremely strong. At times like this, a lot of the lack of virtue in our society really does indeed bring a lot of inconvenience to the whole society. But there's nothing we can do. Everyone is stuck in their own position, constantly complaining and lamenting in their respective roles. I've actually seen many cases, including in some departments, where people are especially lacking. For example, in Tibetan areas, there is a real shortage of teachers' schools really need teachers, substitute teachers. When they come here, it's not for the students. They just want money, not for the sake of the students. If their goal is always focused on money, he doesn't really teach children well. If they don't teach the children well, then the school simply doesn't want this kind of person. So there's a disconnect again. This sort of phenomenon, I think many of you, when you enter society, will easily become aware of all sorts of various kinds of different uncomfortable or unpleasant situations everywhere. So at this point, we've clearly found the underlying root cause of our suffering, the cause of suffering, also called karma and afflictions. So how can we end this karma and these afflictions? As I have already mentioned earlier, through a Buddhist approach, no matter what your situation is, even with some simple Buddhist theoretical knowledge and actual practice, if you combine them gradually, on one hand, the pain and afflictions you already have can be alleviated. Then, when you reach a higher level in your progress or development, at that point, what Buddhism refers to as the profound truth of cessation, which is true, and lasting happiness can finally manifest. The suffering we often encounter in today's society can usually be resolved by finding its root cause. Once the root cause is addressed, such happiness will naturally arise. In Buddhism, as a spiritual tradition, Maitreya Bodhisattva has a metaphor in the Ratnagotra Vibhaga. For example, when a patient is truly suffering greatly and the illness is very severe, we need to find a doctor to find the root cause of the disease. After discovering the root cause, we continue taking medicine. After taking the medicine, the patient eventually makes a full recovery. These 4 stages are actually the most crucial in Buddhism. The Four Noble Truths that Shakyamuni Buddha first taught everyone, 4 noble truths, should truly be regarded as the most fundamental truths in our life. It's not that we should spend every day just chasing after money. That's not what's most important. Therefore, in many sutras, the Buddha teaches that the purpose is to help sentient beings be liberated from such suffering. This method is demonstrated and illustrated as follows, with a metaphor in the King of Dharma Sutra. For example, if someone is, for instance, struck by an arrow, the best thing to do is to remove the arrow as quickly as possible, immediately. Then you've no time to identify what kind of bamboo is this arrow made of? What are the feathers on it? No time. In the same way, in our brief lives right now, people are all suffering greatly. If we want to be free from such suffering, we must understand the Dharma, and after understanding it, we must practice it. Only then can we attain true liberation from it. This is absolutely crucial. As I mentioned, many of you graduate students spend your lives researching and researching, but when you die, this research topic will be of no use to your next life or future lives at all. Sometimes I see some Western philosophers and some travelers who spend their whole lives carrying a camera, studying and researching an animal, and by the time they die, they may have spent 40 or 50 years researching, but when they die, what real meaning does it have for them, really? He leaves this world following his own karmates, really quite pitiable. Many teachers and students who are present here today, some of you have faith and your own studies and spiritual practice, which is very, very good. It should be this way. But some of you may, in fact, end up spending your whole life just doing certain things, and perhaps what you do is beneficial to you in some way, especially if you have no faith and do not accept Buddhism. You think this way yourself, but if you look at it from a long-term view, samsara is an endless cycle of rebirth. From the perspective of such a long and drawn-out process, then many of the things we are doing now may actually be causing us to slowly lose ourselves. In Buddhism, we say that because of our attachment to the self, this truly becomes the greatest harm to society. In fact, in our worldly life, the root of all suffering is the self. Think when you feel uncomfortable or unhappy, it's rare that your unhappiness is for someone else. If you're in a bad mood every day, it's because your attachment to yourself is too strong. Because of this attachment, you might think, oh, today I wasn't treated well. My grades and health are not good today. All of these sufferings stem from our attachment to me. But this self, when examined through the Buddhist view of emptiness, you absolutely cannot find it. No matter how you search inside and out for this so-called self, the hair isn't me, the hands aren't me. In fact, this is a particularly detailed and thorough method of observation in Buddhism. The so-called emptiness and non-self is a profound and subtle state of mind that is realized and fully understood only by great sages. We also very much sincerely hope that the true essence of Buddhism is precisely non-self emptiness, impermanence, suffering, non-self, and the qualities of permanence, bliss, self, and purity. If you truly understand this kind of fundamental principle, this is indeed a Buddhist truth. In worldly life, we have misconceptions. For example, we think the me of yesterday is the same as the me today. But the me of yesterday is not me. Otherwise, tomorrow I would still have to live through today's life, and so on. There are many such flaws. If you reason it up logically, it's the same. We also often have another kind of misconception. For example, we sometimes think the whole is me, and sometimes we think a part is me. This happens too. For example, this finger is my finger. But if I do not exist, how can my finger exist? It doesn't exist. And when it comes to the human body, inside it's all blood, flesh, and pus. There's nothing really clean about it. If you really analyze it, many of you may have done dissections. When you see the human body in anatomy class, our body is skin outside, flesh inside. Flesh has bones. Bones have marrow. So within the human body, there really isn't anything at all that deserves our greed or delight. But we have this kind of illusion. We think this person looks good, that person looks good, or that I look good. But what is attractive? If someone says you look good, is it your good-looking skin, flesh, or bone? If it's attractive, then when you do a dissection, if skin is pulled open, do you look good? See? If I hand you a piece of human flesh to look at, it's not good looking, it's not attractive. So when we like someone or become attached to someone, it's a mindset that hasn't really examined things carefully. In fact, Buddhism actually contains a lot of knowledge on topics like this. When we truly use wisdom to observe, we realize that our worldly life is really like a dream. There's nothing truly real about it. Yet many people become attached to this dream, mistaking it for reality. They see it as an absolutely unbreakable, truly indestructible fact, and judge things accordingly based on that fundamental belief. In the end, this brings great suffering to themselves and others. Some people even act in extremely excessive ways. This is something everyone should be aware of. Let me briefly talk about our Buddhism. From perspectives such as the view of emptiness, we can verify the truth of Buddhism. That's the first point. Secondly, I think we can also see that at this point, the true principles of Buddhism can, in modern times, also be demonstrated and proven through scientific approaches. Of course, some people may really not like to listen to what so-called authoritative scientists have to say. They wonder whether it benefits them or not. If it benefits them, they listen. If not, they don't. Some people are like this. But at the very least, when it comes to the principles explained by scientists, we should also definitely give them some thought. Whether you believe it is your business. Some of us might think that the principles taught in Buddhism are only recognized within the circle of Buddhists themselves. Now that technology is so advanced, people might think that scientists wouldn't acknowledge the principles taught in Buddhism. Some may think this way. Of course, I have a lot of theories and examples on this topic, but today, due to some unavoidable time constraints, I won't be able to go into detail. Instead, I'll just provide some brief information. There are a great many Western scientists, but I won't mention them for now. I'll just mention one notable individual as an example. Yang Jining from China. He is widely recognized as a scientist. He won the Nobel Prize in Physics in 1957. He is now, at this point in his life, over 80 years old. Some people, may actually say, or as some might even argue, that he also has, because he married a much younger wife, or for various other reasons. But as a monk, I don't discuss such matters, but what do I admire most? As a scientist, as someone who is actively working in the field of science, his unique perspective on Buddhism, not sure you read it, but he wrote an article which he published that's actually not particularly long. This video introduces the relationship between the scientific study of physics and Buddhism. I hope that those of you who are wise will take the time to read it. In it, he analyzes a subject with a particularly fair and impartial attitude. He says that in our world, people like Newton and Einstein, precisely because they are scientists, they must carefully prove things from three different aspects. That is why people in the world consider them scientists. By the same logic, conversely, Buddhism is also regarded as a very rational and logical science. In many ways, this too can indeed be verified with three different kinds of reasoning. It is also indeed a very excellent form of science. He also said that the true truth, the true pinnacle in our world is in fact Buddhism of the greatest religions in the world. This was something he said while in the US during the consecration ceremony of the Mahayana temple in New York. I had watched a speech of his in which he also talked a lot about what kind of faith Buddhism really is, or the actual greatness of Buddhism. In fact, as a dedicated scientist like him, whenever he actually had some free time, apart from giving lectures and conducting scientific research, he would often practice meditation, cultivating himself through sitting meditation. Actually, nowadays, many people, including some professors and even genuine scientists, have begun to cultivate themselves through the teachings of Buddhism. There are many such people. So I think in our world, there are also many things like this. You know, in the UK, the US, France, and other places, many scientists have developed many different theories regarding their overall attitude toward Buddhism and their understanding of fundamental Buddhist truths. Therefore, I think that some of us have always used certain specific scientific terms and terminology to deny or challenge Buddhism. This is especially unreasonable, honestly. They believe we should trust science, revere science, and that all religions, including Buddhism, are considered by some to be a form of superstition. Of course, this was during the 70s and 80s when such ideas were widely promoted throughout China and in many other countries as well. Nowadays, people basically no longer have such views. There is hardly any truly open and rampant slander like that anymore. At least, not that we see these days. Because now, most people don't know what philosophy, science, or Buddhism are. As long as they have money for the sake of status, they are running around every day. Many people think about this during the day, and at night, what they think about during the day appears in their dreams. At night, they think about R&B. Aside from this, many people probably have nothing else. Reports on science, many teachers' research reports are often just a formality to pass a requirement. In fact, there really isn't any. A lot of students, in fact, actually really don't study at all. In universities, some people just spend these years doing all sorts of various messy things. They don't really learn any knowledge. By the time they return, some of them are even worse than before. Even some college students, they've learned all sorts of bad things but haven't mastered any real knowledge. When they return, they bring garbage, and anyone who touches it becomes tainted. Whether it's for the nation, for individuals, or for families, it brings a truly ugly and negative influence to everyone. So now, there are also some undesirable phenomena. Of course, they exist. We shouldn't make overly extreme or harsh judgments about anything in any situation or circumstance. There are indeed many dedicated, inspiring teachers who are truly engineers of the human soul. They work truly tirelessly, even to the point of neglecting sleep and meals, to educate and guide their students well, so that no matter what field their students are in, bringing you into a realm of happiness in this life and the next life. And in fact, this next life also has this important part as well. But overall, well, I want to approach this with a particularly fair attitude to gain a positive understanding of Buddhism. Especially when it comes to our Tibetan Buddhism nowadays. I'm not here to blow my own horn as a Tibetan, but indeed, many intellectuals today, including some Western scholars, all feel that our Tibetan region possesses an especially unique and rich truth centered around Tibetan Buddhism. Some of these truths have already been translated into various languages. There are various scripts in the world today. Some of them are basically non-existent. Although they have been especially well preserved in the snowy land of Tibet, I hope that in the future, many wise people, through various means, will truly come to understand the meaning of the scriptures and treatises of Tibetan Buddhism. There are many eminent monks, great masters, and wise people throughout history. They achieved this through years of hard work and research. They have accumulated knowledge, wisdom crystallized. For humanity, this serves a wonderful medicine for the mind. We need this medicine for the mind now. Material wealth is nice to have, but it's okay not to have it. About 20 years ago, in the major cities of the Han region, the economy was relatively underdeveloped. Versus United States, United Kingdom, it was considered impoverished. When the right conditions came together quickly, the economy experienced a breakthrough development. However, nowadays, whether in schools, in our daily lives, or in society as a whole, morality is, as we can clearly observe, gradually exhibiting a noticeable downward trend if each person has the ability collectively, whether it's Buddhist or traditional cultural education, and thought, we should do our best to actively promote and support these. If we don't have such great ability, then as individuals, we should not be swayed by particularly corrupt external environment. We should keep right understanding and mindfulness. As people say, one should have self-awareness. In Buddhism, observe our minds mindfully and wisely. In this way, when a person's thoughts begin to change for the better, naturally, as a result, their speech will also gradually improve. If both their speech and thoughts change, then in general, their actions and their life will gradually move toward a much brighter or even sunnier direction, currently undergoing significant transformation. So I truly believe that for everyone, there are actually, in fact, absolutely no real barriers at all to seeking the truth. We must rely on ourselves for support and guidance, and everyone, without exception, should continue striving for this goal. All right, let's stop here.